Welcome to Janus Corporation's IIPP training on scissor lift safety. Before using a scissor lift on a project, a safety checklist should be used to assure the scissor lift is operating properly. But before we get into the safety checklist, one of the most important safety protocols is never place any portion of your body, hand, arm, foot, leg, head, shoulders, etc., or a tool, a broom, a brush, a hose, etc., into the scissor lift section of the lift. If any part of you or anything else extends into the scissor section of the lift and hits or pulls a hydraulic or pneumatic line, the scissor section could collapse and crush anything between the scissor support beams. You don't want to do that. Scissor lift safety checklist. Key off checklist. Before turning on the lift, check that the operator's manual is present and that the operator has reviewed the manual and is aware of the scissor lift's limitations. Check hydraulic cylinders, lifting mechanism, and fluid levels. Check welds, pins, and look for missing nuts or bolts and other structural parts for cracks or defects. Check outriggers, outrigger limit switches, and locking pins. Check platform entry, middle rail and gate, and platform or basket housekeeping. Make sure everything that's supposed to be there is there. Examine the battery and the fire extinguisher. Check the battery level to assure that the unit can operate the duration of the job or the duration of the shift. Operator is responsible for inspecting all fall protection and ensuring that all fall protection is being worn and attached properly. Often on a scissor lift, fall protection is the guardrails, not necessarily a harness. Check the tires or the rollers and monitor the tire air pressure. Key on checklist. After turning the lift on but before using it, check all ground controls for proper operation, including emergency lowering means. Check all basket controls, foot switch, and horn for proper operation. Battery discharge indicator, hour meter, indicating how much time you have left before the scissor lift dies. Steering in the drive system. Check limit switches and alarms, and flashing beacon if the scissor lift is equipped with such by operating the lift. Raise the basket, extend the booms, tilt and rotate the basket if designed for such motion. Scissor lifts must have guardrails, a top rail between 39 and 45 inches in height. This includes any platform section that extends out from the width of the wheelbase. A scissor lift with guardrails must also have a mid-rail halfway up from the platform to the top rail. Toe boards are also required. While toe boards are mainly present to prevent kicking a tool or debris off the platform, they also help prevent a worker from sliding under the mid-rail and falling from the platform. Scissor lifts do not require fall arrest systems for workers working on the platform, provided the proper guardrails exist. While working on the scissor lift platform, assure the guardrail system is in place. Only stand on the work platform, never stand on the guardrails. Keep work within easy reach to avoid leaning away from the scissor lift. Too much weight over the top rail can cause the lift to fall or can cause you to fall from the lift. Follow the manufacturer's instructions for safe movement of the scissor lift. This usually rules out moving the lift in an elevated position. Isolate the scissor lift or implement traffic control measures to ensure that other equipment cannot contact the scissor lift while it's extended. Select work locations with firm level surfaces away from hazards that can cause instability, drop-offs, holes, slopes, bumps, ground obstructions, or debris. Use the scissor lift outside only when the weather conditions are good. Scissor lifts rated for outdoor use are generally limited to wind speeds below 28 miles per hour. Notice in our pictures, the top picture, we have two people standing on the top rails. Never stand on the rails. The person on the right doesn't even have a fall protection lanyard attached to his fall protection harness. The person on the left has a fall protection lanyard attached to the top rail of the scissor lift, which means if he falls over the top of the top rail rather than into the platform, he's going to pull the scissor lift down on top of him. Not a good thing. Though it's hard to see, the bottom picture shows too much debris on the ground to move the lift and shows work that is too far out from the top of the lift, requiring workers to lean out in order to try and take part of that ceiling down. Janus crews using a scissor lift should always implement traffic control measures around the scissor lift to prevent other workers or vehicles from getting too close. When moving the scissor lift, always assure sufficient overhead space to prevent workers on the platform from being crushed between the guardrails and the ceiling, overhangs, ductwork, and other items. Use ground guides when operating or moving the scissor lift around the workplace. Select work locations that do not approach electrical sources, power lines, transformers by at least 10 feet and that do not pose other overhead hazards, other utilities, branches from a tree, overhangs on the outside of a building, etc. Always assure the driver of the scissor lift is aware of low-hanging electrical lines, especially those not directly in front of the driver. You do not want to back up into an electrical line. If the job task requires work near an electrical source, ensure that the worker has received the required electrical training. Know how much weight a scissor lift can hold and do not overload the lift with debris. Never reach out from the lift so far that you could topple over the top rail. Scissor lift safety things to remember. Never put your hand, foot, head, or other body part or tools into the scissor section of the scissor lift. The guardrails are sufficient for fall protection in most cases, provided they are 39 inches to 45 inches in height and there is a middle rail. Never lean far enough out from the lift to fall over the top rail. Never stand on the guardrails. Always assure the scissor lift is on level, even ground when extended. When driving a scissor lift on the ground or extended in the air, it is important to watch for overhead obstructions and electrical wiring, while also watching for obstructions on the ground. Thank you for taking scissor lift training, one of Janus Corporation's Injury and Illness Protection Program topics. Please proceed to the quiz.